G'day and welcome to the Investor Motivation Podcast. My name's Robert Gowdy and I've got Amy Lehman with me. How are you, Amy?
Brilliant, Robert. How are you?
Going well, thank you. What are we chatting about today?
Today we've actually got a comment on one of our YouTube videos based on our previous podcast that we did covering how a couple can retire very healthily on $650,000 in financial assets. And someone suggested we do the same podcast but for a single.
So same numbers, retiring 67, going all the way through to age 93, but as a single, but the numbers are substantially different.
Yeah, and that's predominantly because of the age pension rates that we do have for singles compared to couples.
Yep.
But thanks very much to the person that left this comment and given us something to talk about. Yeah,
and feel free to throw in other case studies, other scenarios that we are absolutely happy to go through. And it's definitely something I've mentioned in the past where some of the people that that probably do struggle in our community more so than others are the single age pensioners. It's treated a lot more harshly from an assets test point of view. A bit over $1 million for a couple, and they're cut off in financial assets, and also other assets such as your car and your contents are included. Our houses are excluded, but that number comes down to 670-ish for a single, so it gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So very good. Let's kick off and acknowledgement land. Thank you.
Before we get into everything, on behalf of the Investor Motivation Podcast, we would like to pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we do record this podcast, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging.
Perfectly done. Now, one issue, whether you've got someone living at home as a couple or a single, is there a massive difference in the cost?
No, it still costs the same to run a household, to pay the bills, to keep warm, have the roof over their head, really, doesn't it?
So it might be a few less spuds or carrots. But overall, and particularly, some couples run just one car, so that doesn't change. If there's car and caravan, well, generally when the older male passes away, that's one of the first things, would be the first things to get sold is the caravan. And then the ute. And that can free up some cash flow, but it's very different conversations for those people. And when I'm working with the couples in retirement, I'm always thinking about when someone passes away, does that person, the widow or widower, have enough?
Yeah.
It's a real vital one.
Yeah.
So, so what do we need? What sort of dollars do we from an income point of view, we've got the AFCA standards, which provide some highlights on that. What do those numbers look like, Amy?
So for the comfortable lifestyle for just a single, it's $48,000 a year. So that's comfortable living, which covers off, having the private health insurance, being able to turn on the utilities so they have the heater on and not be worried about, how much that's going to cost them.
Yes.
A couple of meals out. Just a comfortable lifestyle,
right? And that's the comfortable. So 48, and that's for an older Australian.
That one is. That's 85 onwards.
Yeah, so the AFCA standards give us a younger retiring Australian.
Yeah. As
opposed to someone that's in mid-80s, will definitely doing a fair bit less.
Yep. And then the comfortable for a single. The start of the retirement, so this is from 65 onwards. Our projections that we'll talk about today will be 67 onwards, but same figures. For a single is 51,000, just over that.
Right, very good. So I've done some calculations for us on our projector, which we use with our clients regularly. At sort of, a fair bit higher figures than that to try to make it work. And so if comfortable is sort of that 51 to 48, depending on the age, then. Yeah, well, let's go through some of the numbers and what other considerations do you think people should be thinking about?
For the comfortable?
Yeah, yep.
As in what things they want to spend their money on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
in terms of what makes up the comfortable retirement as opposed to modest. And living pretty leanly?
Yeah. Well, the comfortable has pretty much imagine, the bougie grandparents,
Yes.
the ones that can go get their haircuts professionally done, have the
Yep.
colour done. It caters for, professional haircuts, regular, like, club memberships, going out to the movies quite often, and
Yep.
restaurant meals. Like I said, confidence to use the heater and the air conditioning when it's hot or cold.
Yes.
Replacing worn out clothing items, shoes, and also domestic trips around Australia with family.
Right.
So it is quite a comfortable retirement.
All on 51.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. I'm a bit surprised that that may not be quite bougie for some.
No, and it is just the one. So obviously, if you're looking at a couple, it's more because those trips and hairdressing costs are more expensive.
Yes.
So 51 for just a single, yeah.
Yeah, and just for comparison purposes, for a couple, it's 20 grand extra.
Yeah, exactly
Yes,
right.
yeah.
So having that extra person to feed and do all of those leisurely activities is more expensive.
Fantastic. So what we're doing in the background here, we're just having a look at some of the numbers. So this is someone retiring at age 67.
Yep.
They've got 650 in assets, and they would get a small amount of pension. So if we put in that $52,000 per year, and just so you get a bit of an idea, on a return point of view, we have a pessimistic outlook. What if things go really terrible for the first 10 years and then it reverts back to about 5% after that? So that pessimistic or hell in a handbasket scenario for the first 10 years is 1.9%. Markets do strange things.
Yeah.
So that makes it realistic in a really negative scenario, but the base case or average return for the first 10 years is based on a balance fund, about 5.3%.
Yep, and that balanced fund is 60% into growth assets and the 40% into the conservative cash term deposits.
Correct. And the $52,000 is indexed to CPI, but then less 0.5%, which represents as we get older, we spend a little bit less.
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect.
So at 52 grand, and these numbers sort of really are in line with the AFCA standards.
Yeah, so this projector's showing them. We will on the YouTube page have some of these screen grabs on for everyone to see, but if you're just listening, the 650,000 with 52 each year out to this retiree, based on them at 93 years old, they should be left with about $135,000, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and we are ignoring an optimistic return outlook as well, which would be substantially better than that. But just to be conservative with our numbers, we'd always like it to be, obviously get a higher rate of return, and that's based on how much exposure you have to growth, of course. But I can see why even under the pessimistic scenario, it still shows that money is, in terms of that 52 grand spend per year, it's passing through the life expectancy number of 93.
Yeah, which is again very conservative, as we know that once you pass 85 years old, the spending does go down, like I said, to that 48-ish thousand.
Yeah. So if we just change the numbers a bit, Amy, and say, well, one person's bougie is not 52 grand, but it might be an extra $5,000 per year. We go up to 57.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what the numbers do there. And under the base case, which is the a bit over 5% return, and then 5% for the full retirement, it has money running out at age 94.
Yeah.
And probably by then, I think you're not going to be doing too much. You're going to be relatively housebound.
Yeah.
And there is, I suppose, the third safety net that I speak to clients about. The first safety net is, the 650 grand, the money that's been accumulated over time by hard work and hard saving.
Yeah.
Safety net number one that you've earned.
Yeah. And I might just jump in and say that these figures are based off a single homeowner. So this is the person does own their home.
Yes. Yep. Single homeowner. There's different. There's rent assistance for those that don't own their own home, and different assets test limits for those that don't own their own home. So very good point.
And the third safety net is based on homeowner.
Yes, correct. And the second safety net is Centrelink.
Yeah.
You start to get some Centrelink, and for this scenario, right at the start, there's not a huge amount of Centrelink that comes in for someone that has $650,000 and has a car and some contents. There's not a huge amount there. But the third safety net for homeowners is that if money runs out prior to these numbers because the average return was particularly ordinary, then you've got the ability to utilise the government's home equity release scheme, which some people hate the sound of owing the government, or the government, I suppose, owing some money as a, take a little bit of equity in your own home. Well, don't take it, it's a loan to them that gets paid off when the house is sold. But that's a third safety net that is a really good consideration, just to make sure that, those people that are trying to live off, 29 grand a year and doing it tough, can have that extra 5 grand, so life isn't hard.
Yeah, definitely, and especially for those singles that, if they've been single the whole life, there might not be kids or any goal to leave inheritance to anybody, so why not live as comfortably as you possibly can by releasing some of that equity in your home and giving yourself that little bit more freedom, a little bit more fun throughout your life, because you've got nobody to leave it to, and it doesn't matter if that money goes back to the government.
And a lot of the beneficiaries that we chat to, or their parents, we're dealing with the retirees, many children are actually not that interested. You're saying, Mum, Dad, go and enjoy yourself. Yeah, go and have fun. We are fine.
Yeah.
That's not the case for everyone. We understand that, but we do get that feedback quite a lot.
Yeah.
There is the option, if you get to that age and let's say you don't, life expectancy at 93, what we've calculated for, and you live through to 103 and you need a bit extra, that home equity release scheme is a great option.
Yeah.
Another option is to sell the home and go renting. But I'd nearly bet at that age, having the lack of security of your own home would not be something that you'd be excited about.
No, I think, having the roof over your head when you're retired is just a great sense of security, and something that you deserve after a lifelong of hard work. And
absolutely. So I've seen a few people do that in the past, and over time, to live and get by, to pay your rent, and obviously, as we know, finding a place to rent, finding a nice place to rent than one that's reasonable in this day and age is really tough going.
Very hard.
I think the home equity release scheme is just that if money runs out, there might be times, in these calculations where there are things that we don't see coming, hip replacements, knee replacements in older Aussies. If you're on a waiting list, it's... you might say, right, I can't put up with this pain. My life has been affected too much. I need to go and pay to get it done. And that's where you draw down on some of your money, or you use the equity release scheme to help with that as well.
Yeah, why not? Just be comfortable. Yeah.
Now, these calculations we've done don't take into account further strategies that we could lean on that help reduce the assets test. Amy, do you want to cover off on a couple of those?
Yeah, like Rob just mentioned, this is having $650,000 at age 67. That is fully accessible financial assets for Centrelink purposes. We know that there are a few products out there actually that we can purchase that reduce Centrelink assets test. For example, a lifetime annuity, if you purchase that for $200,000, only 60% of that value is then accessible for Centrelink, so only $120,000. So you immediately reduce the assets test for 80 grand, which gives you that little bit extra age pension, which can go a long distance.
And when you say long distance, that was very well played, Amy. These lifetime annuities pay out for as long as you're alive.
Yep, lifetime annuity.
They're lifetime annuities. So that solves part of that solution around outliving your money. So these products will provide an annual amount. You get a quote. They are set. They're not got nothing to they can be investment linked. We use a lot from Challenger that are quite fixed.
Capital guaranteed, so you know the money's always going to be coming in.
And some of them are contracts where you give them 200 and they'll pay out X amount per year for the rest of your life. So there's got no market movement, but you can get the market linked ones now. And you can choose your asset allocation there as well. So so there's great options there, and that means you get a boost in Centrelink, which the old saying that I've probably said my whole career, is that we'll look to spend the government's money first and then your money second, which, most people seem to understand quite nicely.
Yeah, no one fights that one.
What about the less exciting one of an awesome investment into
Funeral bonds.
Funeral bonds.
Yay!
So exciting.
Crowd goes wild.
So positive.
If you are somebody that wants to cover off all bases of estate planning, you can take out a funeral bond that might be of interest for you, which is essentially money set aside to pay for the sole purpose of your funeral, so that family don't need to fork out anything at that time. But that can be up to $14,500 of completely assets exempt money. So up to $14,500 for the sole purpose of your future funeral. Centrelink won't assess it.
Cool. Very good.
Easy as that.
Yeah, so it can be done. The taking out 65 grand a year in income or 70 doesn't really work. Money will run out quickly, but we've probably proven that that the 52, the AFCA standard for a comfortable retirement, does work.
Yeah, and it, like I said, it is comfortable. It covers off on quite a lot of luxurious things for an elderly person.
Yep, yeah, and even 5 grand extra does work.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and some people might take take the approach to say, well, if I get to mid-80s and my money runs out, and I know I've got the home equity release scheme to fall back on to supplement a full age pension, then that might allow you to spend more. There's nothing wrong with running out of money.
No.
Particularly at an age where I'm pretty tired, the body's sore, I'm not going to be doing, the big stuff. So that might allow you to spend more early while you're fit enough and young enough.
Yep.
Because the quote I'm giving clients, do you remember the quote?
I want you to say it.
The quote that I've been giving, particularly, I think it's good, and it probably came about over the bear market we saw after COVID, the crash. The markets went up and then they came down again, and I saw these retired men who'd replaced their work with the hobby of checking their portfolio on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So that was stressing them.
Not healthy.
And I was saying, guys, your job in retirement is to increase the memories, to reduce the regret down the track when you're too old to do something about it.
Yeah.
It's a long-winded quote, but I've used it a lot, but I think people relate to it. So to increase memories, it might be, so I'm happy for the money to run out, mid-80s or even a little bit earlier, knowing that I can fall back on a bit of equity in my home.
Yeah.
My kids are fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or even just spend a little bit more earlier on and spend less later, but not run out of money as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways you can go about it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, running out of money should not be a stressful thing if it's when you're 85 or 90. I don't think.
Anything, if there's a plan, shouldn't be stressful.
Correct. That's right, and it might be someone's goal. I want to run out of money, go to a stage when I'm just a bit tired. Because one thing that I know that if clients get to their 90s and they've got a lot of money, they're not going to probably pat me on the back. No. I think they'll say, gee, great amount of money that we've accumulated. Why didn't you tell me I could have spent more in my 60s?
Yeah, we could have gone for that trip.
Yeah.
I could have taken the family away.
Yeah, the regret point.
Yeah.
So can be done, but with your financial advisor, I would highly recommend that get the projectors out.
Yes.
They need to guide you, and it's not just once at the start of a retirement plan. Use these projections because things change, markets change, markets do backflips, shit hits the fan every now and then, stuff you don't see coming.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you go back to the projector, rerun the numbers.
Yeah. If there is a niggling thought of, maybe I should go overseas next year, but maybe I can't afford it, let your advisor know that you're thinking about it. They can run the projector and say, yep, you can afford to do that and you'll be fine, or you can afford to go somewhere, but maybe not 20,000, maybe 10,000 instead.
Yep. Run the numbers. Let the projections guide you. Very good. Now, for those that are listening via podcast, please know that we're nearly up to 650 videos on our YouTube channel. We've been running that for over 12 years. It's been a labour of love here for a long time. So there's lots of personal information, lots of personal finance information, lots of discussions. Amy is on TikTok and Instagram.
Yep, at the Wealth Diaries.
Cool. I'm on TikTok and just started Instagram just to fill a void there. That's just Robert Gowdy, Financial Advisor, or Rob Gowdy. But if you've got any questions or any topics you'd like us to cover, or a case scenario like we just went through today, please let us know. We're happy to have a chat.
Yep, please, please, please.
Cool. Thanks, Amy.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.